Imagine a city preparing for the biggest sporting event on Earth. New signs appear at airports, hotel prices begin to rise, construction crews work late into the evening, restaurants hire extra staff, and local officials speak confidently about tourism, visibility, and long-term growth. From the outside, the World Cup looks like an economic celebration, a temporary moment when the world arrives and money flows through the streets. But behind the crowds, the jerseys, and the television cameras, there is a quieter question that economists have asked for decades. When a country hosts a mega event, who actually benefits from the money that moves? The World Cup economy is not just about ticket sales or packed stadiums. It is a system of spending, expectations, contracts, public investment, private profit, and psychological optimism. Host countries often justify the event by pointing to tourism, global attention, and infrastructure upgrades, and some of those benefits are real. Visitors do spend money, businesses near event zones may see a surge, and transportation projects can improve daily life if they were needed anyway. But the mistake is assuming that visible spending automatically means broad economic gain. In economics, the key question is not whether money is spent, but where it comes from, where it goes, and what would have happened if it had been used differently. This is where the psychology becomes important. Mega events create what could be called prestige economics, where nations and cities are willing to spend heavily because the event feels bigger than a normal investment decision. A stadium is not presented as a building, but as a symbol. A transit upgrade is not just a project, but a legacy. A global broadcast is not just attention, but proof that the country belongs on the world stage. That emotional framing makes the costs easier to accept, because people are not only buying infrastructure, they are buying identity, pride, and the feeling of being seen. The mathematical problem begins with fixed costs. Hosting requires stadiums, security, transportation, fan zones, operations, and coordination across multiple cities. Some of these costs can be useful, especially when they align with long-term needs, but many are difficult to recover directly. A stadium that costs hundreds of millions of dollars must be used repeatedly for years to justify itself. And if local demand is weak after the tournament, the building can become a financial burden rather than an asset. The event creates peak demand for a few weeks, but infrastructure creates maintenance costs for decades. Then there is the substitution effect, which is one of the most overlooked parts of the World Cup economy. When a local resident spends money on match-related activities, that money may not be new economic activity. It may simply replace spending they would have done elsewhere. A family that buys tickets might skip restaurants, shopping, or travel later in the year. A tourist who attends the tournament may replace another tourist who avoided the crowds and high prices. The headline number says spending increased, but the net gain may be smaller once displaced activity is counted. There is also leakage. Even when money enters the host economy, not all of it stays there. International hotel chains, global sponsors, foreign broadcasters, and outside contractors may capture a meaningful share of the revenue. A visitor buying a room, a shirt, or a branded experience may appear to support the local economy, but part of that money can leave through corporate ownership, licensing agreements, imported goods, or centralized contracts. This does not mean the event has no value. It means the visible flow of money is not the same as local wealth creation. The incentive structure matters as well. Public institutions often carry much of the risk because governments fund infrastructure, provide security, and absorb overruns, while private entities may capture high-margin revenue from sponsorships, hospitality, media, and exclusive commercial zones. This is one of the central tensions of mega-event economics. The costs are often socialized, while the most predictable profits can be privatized. The public is told to think in terms of national benefit, while many contracts are designed around specific revenue channels. The World Cup also changes prices, and those changes reveal how scarcity works. Hotel rooms become more expensive because demand is concentrated in time and place. Flights rise because capacity is limited. Restaurants and short-term rentals adjust because visitors have fewer substitutes. For business owners, this can be a rare chance to earn more. For residents, it can make daily life more expensive. The same event that creates opportunity for one group can create pressure for another, depending on whether someone owns scarce assets or merely has to pay for them. This is where the wealth threshold becomes visible. People who own hotels, rental properties, land near stadiums, media rights, transportation companies, or sponsorship-linked businesses are positioned to benefit from temporary demand shocks. People who rent, commute, or work in low-margin service jobs may experience the event very differently. They might see more hours, more crowds, and higher prices without receiving a proportional share of the upside. The World Cup does not affect everyone as one economy. It affects people according to what they own, what they control, and how close they are to the revenue streams. Historically, mega events have produced mixed economic results because they compress ambition into a deadline. Deadlines can help governments finish projects that were delayed for years, but they can also weaken cost discipline because the event date cannot move. When a normal project runs over budget, it can be paused, redesigned, or delayed. When a World Cup project runs over budget, the pressure is to finish anyway. That urgency changes negotiation power, and contractors, suppliers, and political actors understand that the host cannot easily walk away. None of this means hosting is automatically bad. A well-planned tournament can accelerate useful infrastructure, strengthen tourism capacity, support small businesses, and create civic memories that are difficult to measure in money alone. But the honest economic view is more careful. The best outcomes happen when the event serves a plan that already made sense before the tournament existed. The weakest outcomes happen when the tournament becomes the. So the real question is not whether the World Cup brings money. It does. The real question is who captures it, who pays for the system that makes it possible, and what remains after the final whistle. Because in the end, the World Cup economy is not only a story about sport. It is a story about how modern economies turn attention into revenue, how symbols become budgets, and how the difference between wealth and expense often comes down to whether you own the asset or simply live near it.